She the queen, yeah, that's Queen Esquire. Legal trouble, she getting you out the fire. Another dame, she solving another case. Cause she litigate with dignity and grace. She the queen, yeah, that's Queen Esquire. Legal trouble, she getting you out the fire. Another dame, she solving another case. Cause she litigate with dignity and grace.
Hey Barbie, Chloe, period I, period 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 period. Got my name up in your mouth, you don't know no better. Don't forget I'm from the south, yeah, I got them headers. You watching everything I do, studying all of my moves. Wish you could do what I do. Period I, period period I, period period I, period period I, period.
Hello, opinionators and litigators. Court is now in session. Hello, 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 everybody. I hope you are doing fine this beautiful Sunday. But we are here today on grim circumstances, as we normally are. And I really want to talk about this tragedy because this one really struck my attention, and I want us to talk about it because I feel like people in society are just fed up. They are, honestly, especially in the Black and Brown community. As people are aware, historically, Black individuals are unalived regularly by officers. On one side, people argue that Black and Brown people are running from officers, and that's why officers have to utilize their firearms to protect themselves. But on the other side, individuals in the Black community are saying they feel like Black individuals and Brown individuals are harshly treated, very aggressive force. By contrast, individuals in the white community are not treated that way. And that's what we're gathered here today. And especially as we've seen historically, a lot of individuals go on strike. There's bombings and fires and, all kinds of stuff goes on after a Black and Brown person is unlawfully unalived by an officer. Well, we're gathered here today because this story is about a love of a father. Here we have on the left of the screen, that is Ryan Hinton. And on the right side of the screen is Rodney Hinton, the father of Ryan. Ryan is an 18-year-old boy in Cincinnati, Ohio. And his father here on the right of the screen is Rodney Hinton. He is a 38-year-old Cincinnati father. And a lot of people, let's just talk a little bit about him before we get into the story, because a lot of people have tried to portray Rodney as some thug, some criminal man who is out here just, unaliving officers. I honestly think Rodney snapped in this tragedy, but let's just get into the background real quick. Basically what happened was, before I get into the full story, Ryan here on the left side, 18-year-old boy, he was messing with the wrong crowd. His father tried to raise him in the right way. His father would bring him to church regularly. He had, Rodney really loves his children. He has a deep love for his children, and he tried to raise his children the best way he could, based upon statements from family members and friends who have, and I'm going to read a statement from actually a person who knows him personally. So I'm going to read it from her to talk a little bit about him and go on his page. And we're going to look at him before we get into the story. But Ryan was hanging out with the wrong friends. This is the case of peer pressure, the wrong peer pressure. And Ryan and his friends stole a vehicle. Now that was wrong. Of course, they broke the law. And, of course, they rightfully need to face repercussions. Well, when officers pulled them over, Ryan ran and his friends ran. They went to chase after Ryan, and Ryan did, in fact, have a firearm on him. There are allegations that he dropped his firearm and he in one of the on the grass, and he continued to run. And we're going to look at the footage. The footage is very blurry. It's unclear to me why officers would post a blurry video body camera of what happened, as if they're really justifying this murder. But they provided this very grainy footage. Based on the blurry footage that what I've seen, it appeared as though Ryan was running away. There is nothing in the blurry image showing that he's lifted his hands in any way to aim a firearm at the officers. It appears as though he was trying to get away. But as he's trying to get away from the officers, and he allegedly had stashed the firearm before he had, tried to run, officers claimed he had a gun and then shot and killed him. Now, before the next day, Rodney, who deeply loves his children, he tried the best. Like I said, he's regularly in church. He brings his kids to church every Sunday. He is a man that just tries to live his life right. And a lot of people have portrayed this man as a thug and all kinds of things when he actually really is not, based on what people are saying that they know of him. But anyways, Rodney Hitney Jr. went with his family members to the police station, and they watched the video body camera footage. Now, what Rodney seen on that video camera footage made him hysterical. He was absolutely inflamed with enraged, because from what he had seen, his son was not trying to shoot the officers. He felt that the officers unjustifiably murdered his son, and he knew that the judicial system was not going to give him the justice that he felt he deserved. So right after watching that body camera in the police station, he stormed off by himself. And then he drove and randomly saw a police officer, which we'll talk about. And this officer was basically patrolling the area of a university. I think it was Cincinnati University, for a graduation that was occurring at that time. And he was in this, street area patrolling, and Rodney ran him over, unalived him. Now, it's sad because this officer who was unalived was not the officer who shot and killed Ryan. But I believe Rodney wanted to take his own justice to say, hey, you unalive my kid, so I'm going to unalive a cop. And that's why we're here today, because people are tired. People are fed up, especially in the Black community. I see a lot of this happening now. Black individuals are standing up and fighting for themselves, because historically they've just protest, and they felt like they're not getting justice. So on one end, there's people calling Rodney a thug, and on the other end, people are calling him the father of the year. So you will be the judge. But let's get into kind of some photos of Rodney before we get into the full story here, just so you can understand him. I went to his Facebook, and this is his Facebook, Rodney Hinton, just so we can kind of get a background of who he is. So like I said, he lives in Cincinnati, but he last posted in 2020, so he's not really online like that. He said, good day for a swim. You already see there's people supporting him. Some people say, free this man. Other people say other things on here. Some people have called him a loser. This person said, Rodney Hero Hinton, free Rodney, I for an F and I. This is straight up death penalty case. No way around it. And this person said, when some fathers say they'll end it all for their kids, this is what they mean. They said, this person says, would someone please have Rodney get in touch with Brenda? They said, good job standing up for your son. We support you. This person posts a picture of Ryan when he was younger. This is a picture of, and look at here, you can see, this is Ryan when he was younger, before he was shot by the officers. Look at this comment from Rodney 7 years ago. Love my boy. Rodney had a deep, deep love for his children. He was very committed to his children. And he tried and tried and tried. Like I said, I'm going to read a comment. He tried and tried and tried to raise his children in the right way. And unfortunately, without, his control, his kid got caught into some wrong things. What a lot of people do. Says, can't sleep. This person says, I'm sure you'll sleep good in jail, loser. Like, just saying, and those are people like in the white community, we have to say, that, have their side, and they always say stuff like that. And then you have people in the Black community who feel another way. So let's just see here. You can see he posted a scripture here, King James Bible. Be not conformed to this world. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. So you see, he was a man of God. Bless up, bro. He regularly went to church. Here's some photos of him here. just a regular father. This father just snapped. They're here. He's with his child back in 2019. He really was a good, devoted father. Now, I know people are like, why are you calling this man who killed an innocent cop a good person? Because we need to look at the person before the tragedy happened. This is Ryan when he was younger, in younger days. And you can see here, Rodney put, "Love my boy." He deeply, deeply loved his son. Here's a photo of him here. Another photo of Rodney. Look at here. This person said here 8 years ago, "Amen. You must be serious about being a servant of God through the blood of Jesus. LOL. Nice picture." See, this man was in church. And people would say, well, man in church, why would he seek revenge? He knows that God says revenge is mine. But some people, and this is here, little baby when he was younger. But I think he has a couple of kids too. This is his wife here. He's getting married to his wife, the mother of his children here. And another photo of him. So he was just a regular, this is the church he went to, Anointed Worship Fellowship, Anointed Hands Learning Center. The scripture that he posted. And then here he posted right here, "Thank you, Father, for everything you have done." So for years and years and years, this man has tried. And here he is, another father here with his other child. I think this is his youngest child here. He really focused his life. And then here, Rodney wrote, "The best mother in the world, Anna." This is his wife, the mother of his children. And here's another photos of him. Here's him with his other child. And again, I wanted to just do this shortly to show you who he was before this all happened, because again, a lot of people just see what happened and what he did, and they just want to paint this man as this evil villain. Here this is the church bus. He said, "AWF van service is awesome. Bible school tonight. All are welcome." And this is back in 2015. So this man had a long, long history, some foodie, of just serving God and trying to raise his kids in the right way. But of course, no matter how much, and this is his son Ryan before, when he was a child here. That's little Ryan there. But you could try and raise your children in the right way. But, unfortunately, kids will get involved in things. They, get under peer pressure. And that's what happened with Ryan. But did Ryan deserve a death sentence because he stole a car and he ran from the cops? By way means no. And it does appear historically that individuals in the Black community are shot and killed very quickly. There's no de-escalation. There's no effort from law enforcement to de-escalate a situation. They're just very quick to shoot. If you run, they're going to shoot you outright. But let me read this statement from a woman who knows Rodney and Ryan. And so you can get a background from what she said. Her name is Mary, and she says, "A lot of people are talking about what happened, but I need to speak on it from a place of truth because I knew Rodney Hinton personally. I went to church with him for over 7 years, and I watched him raise his son, Ryan, with discipline, love, and integrity. Ryan was an active, present father. He didn't play when it came to raising his child right. Ryan was well-mannered and respectful growing up." So he's talking about, Ryan, the son. He said he was well-mannered and respectful when he was growing up. "So when I heard Ryan was killed by police and they claimed he had a gun, but there's been no proof, I was heartbroken and confused like many others. Then out of retaliation, Rodney took the life of an officer who had nothing to do with his son's death. Two wrongs never make a right. And I don't believe that innocent officer should have lost his life. But I also know Rodney was a man who loved his son deeply." And you could see it, like I said in the Facebook post, he said, "I love my boy." He really was very devoted to his children. So she said Rodney was a man who loved his son deeply. And I can only imagine the pain he was in. My heart goes out to both families. And I just pray that Rodney receives support and fairness in court, not because of what he did was right, but because people need to know who he truly was before all of this. And most of all, I pray Ryan's death doesn't get buried in the chaos. His life mattered too. This is so sad. Did the officer who killed Ryan get charged with anything? So that was her statement. And like I said, it's very important to get a background of the individual before we go into the story, because individuals will paint a person as just a thug or a bad person when we don't know the background. But here right now, I'm going to play the body camera footage of what really stemmed and caused this ultimate tragedy. This incident occurred on May 1st when Ryan and his friends, the son, the 18-year-old son, was pulled over by law enforcement, and he got out of the car and he ran. Okay. And as he's running, you'll see this video footage is very grainy and blurry, so you'll have to look very closely. But from what I see in the blurry, grainy footage, Ryan was running away from the officers. There is no images in here that show that this young boy was trying to shoot or aim a gun at the officers in any way. So I honestly believe the officers are being dishonest, but that is my opinion. But let's play the video and you be the judge. Now, from what I've seen, I played this video several times because I wanted you to get a close look. What I seen is Ryan running away. He wasn't even looking at the officers. He was headed in the woods away from the officers. It appears as me that these officers were gun happy. They were gun happy, and they just shot this boy, claiming he had a gun. And this is an old tale story that a lot of officers use when it comes to Black kids or Black individuals. Now, there was a firearm found. Yes, there was a firearm that they found in the ground, in the grass somewhere. I'm not sure when location where they found that firearm, but this whole investigation seems very shady. Number one, there's a blurry image footage of the incident, so we barely can see it. But from the grainy video footage that I've seen, and I want you to be the judge, it looks as though Ryan was running away. There's no part of that blurred video where he lifts his hands in any way to aim a firearm at them. He's trying to get away from them. These officers took no steps to de-escalate the situation. They could have even retracted from the area and could have just took they had the vehicle there. They could have just let Ryan run and get the vehicle, take it, impound the vehicle, and then put a bolo out, which is be on the lookout out for Ryan. But it's like, as soon as a Black person starts running, they're ready to shoot. And I think Rodney felt like he was not going to get justice for the murder of his son. But let's watch this one more time before we move on. So again, I played that again just to show you there is no part in this video where Ryan tried to lift up a gun and aim it at the officers. It appears to me, and this is just my judgment, I want to hear from you, who's watching. What do you think? But it doesn't look as though these officers are lying. And so it doesn't look as though Ryan tried to shoot the officers. It appears to me that the officers are lying. They wanted to shoot this boy because he was running, basically. And this is a lot of times what officers do. And I believe when Ryan's father saw that video footage, he lost it. He absolutely lost it because his son was brutally, tragically taken. So here you can see this is another picture of Ryan when he used to play football. He was a really good kid, honestly. He just got involved with the wrong people and made bad choices, unfortunately. But I don't think this kid really, was trying to shoot the officers based on that video footage. So let's take a look. Let's see. This person says the police took his son's life, so the next day he ran over an officer. So I want to read this article about the tragedy before we get into any more footages and stuff like that. Okay. But I do want to hear what you guys think about this because this is very tragic. Let's see. Okay, right. Hi, Starry Night. Starry says he's definitely running away. Ellie is guilty. Yeah, law enforcement, in my opinion, it does not look, even in the grainy footage, you can see that he didn't lift his hand at all to aim. He was running. He looked like his focus was even on trying to get away. He didn't even look at the officers. I could see that from the blurry footage. The officers clearly are corrupt and they lied. They just wanted to shoot him. He's a black kid running from the officers and they wanted to shoot him. And they said, oh, he has a gun, just shoot. And it's just like, but you had no reason to shoot him. So let's read this article here. Thank you for that good point that you brought up there. It says, Ohio cop mercilessly run over by vengeful dad whose teen son was shot dead by police. An Ohio police officer patrolling traffic for a college graduation was unalived after a father whose son died a day earlier at the hands of a different officer allegedly ran him over. The shocking crash occurred on Friday when the sheriff's deputy was working traffic detail at a graduation ceremony for the University of Cincinnati. Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thiege then revealed the alleged perpetrator as Rodney Hinton Jr., 38 years old, whose son Ryan was unalived in a police-involved shooting on Thursday. And I really think that's why Rodney was enraged, because he basically that morning, he saw the video footage and he knew after seeing that footage, his son was not trying to shoot those officers. He knew the officers were lying and he was enraged and he was going to get revenge. Was it right to kill a man who wasn't involved in this? No. But I think Rodney had lost it. He loved his sons very deeply. He invested his whole life into his children and tried to give them a good future. And he felt like this officer unjustifiably took his son, and he felt his whole world tumbling down, and he wanted justice, and he wanted it quickly, and took justice in his own hands. Hamilton County Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey told reporters at a press conference that a police officer arrived on the scene to provide care for the deputy, who was not yet been named, but he was later pronounced dead. McGuffey said that he had just retired a few months ago prior, but stayed on the force to help when needed. And that's the sad thing about it, guys. The officer who was ran over was already retired. He had retired already. He should even been there at this graduation, patrolling the graduation, because he was supposed to be living his best life with his honeydews, taking care of errands in the house. So that's even more tragic that this officer died, after he was trying to volunteer after retirement. So it says the deputy's death has stirred a strong reaction from colleagues on the force, including Cincinnati fraternal order of police Ken Kober, who called for the death penalty. You guys, and the officers, of course, understandably enough, are enraged. And I'm going to show you guys a video of this, but during Rodney's arraignment, when he was in court, there was an entire room full of officers. Now, we already know it was unnecessary to have an entire room of officers surveying and patrolling and monitoring this one man who's handcuffed, right? No, those officers showed up in solidarity, in a stance, a uniform stance for their fellow deputy officer. That's why they showed up. It wasn't because they were more necessarily trying to patrol and monitor and secure Rodney. They wanted to appear in that arraignment in solidarity and in unity for the fallen officer. That's why they were there. And we'll talk more about that when we watch the video footage. And that we'll do that after we read this article. This horrific and intentional murder of a Hamilton County law enforcement officer is one of the worst things that I've ever seen in my career, Kober said. There's no room for anything less than the death penalty, and we call on Prosecutor Pillinch to confirm she will seek it, he added. And people want to know why this man, Rodney, who was a devoted man who loved God. This man loved the Lord. He went to church years and years, very devoted, tried to have his kids in church. Why would a man of God turn around and seek revenge when God said, revenge is mine? It's because he snapped. When he lost his son in the way that he lost everything. And I think some people fail to look at that from a human stance. And especially when, hi, Crystal. And especially when his son was lost in the most unjustifiable way, and the officers are looking him in the eye at the police station before this all occurred and lying to him, telling him that his son, Ryan, tried to shoot at them. And this man, Rodney, who knows his son from birth, who raised his child in church, is hearing these officers, and he knows in his mind, there is absolutely no way my son would try to shoot officers because I raised him in the right way. And then when he watched the body camera and saw that it was false of what the officer said, that in fact he was running away from the officers, he had not lifted his hands not once to shoot at these officers. He was trying to get away. These officers could have retracted. They didn't need to catch him at that moment. They could have just impounded that vehicle. There was no need. They're taught de-escalation tactics, and they took no effort at all to de-escalate it at all. But when Rodney saw that video footage of the incident, he lost it because he knew the officers had lied to him. He knew that the officers had shot his son unjustifiably, and he knew that he wasn't going to get justice through the judicial system. And it seems as though we're seeing a lot of Black and brown individuals who are taking justice in their own hands now, as we've seen with Carmelo, who stabbed a Caucasian child at a track meet. It's starting to show that the surface is cracking in the Black community. People in the Black community are getting tired. They want to put justice in their own hands now. They've years and years of this happening, no longer wanting to go into the community and go on strike and protest because they see that just doesn't work. It's ineffective. In fact, a lot of them get arrested, and that's really all that happens. Those individuals try to protest and they get arrested, and there's no real justice. Or if the officers go to court, a lot of times they're shorthanded, given these very short, lenient sentences, or even acquitted in a lot of times too. So this young Rodney here, 38-year-old father, lost it. Okay. So here's a booking photo of him. And the reason why he has these abrasions here is because he crashed the car and it was a really bad accident. We'll take a look at that vehicle as well. But again, he was 38 years old, arrested, charged with aggravated murder after he allegedly ran over a police officer on traffic duty. This is Ryan here, the son, 18-year-old son. The fatal crash came a day after Rodney Hinton's son, Ryan, was killed by a police officer after he ran away from cops investigating an alleged stolen vehicle. And here, this is a still shot. You could see in this still shot, this is the body camera, showed a grainy video of Ryan Hinton running away. You see that? Running away from police officers before they shot and killed him. Cincinnati's Chief Teresa said that the officer who fired his gun feared for his life. And this is BS. They use this excuse every time they encounter a Black person. There's this cultural stigma in America that, you know, but the big Black guy, they're always, once they see a Black person, they're scared for their life. That's like what we hear all the time in the news. But the officer really had no justified reason to be scared for his life. You could see just looking at this still shot photo here. Ryan is running away. His face is looking like it's aimed towards the field here. His body is turned away towards the field. He's not even looking at the officers one bit. He's running. He's trying to get away. He's not trying to shoot the officers. There's no aiming his arms. He's running. This still shot here. This still shot photo here is clear proof that Ryan was not trying to harm the officers. He was trying to get away. There is no reason, no justifiable reason at all that those officers should have killed this young boy. And that is why Ryan lost his mind when he saw this video footage, because Rodney saw the video footage before any of this information was released to the public. He and his family went down to the police station and they watched it before he went and ran over the officer. And when he saw that video footage and the officers looked him in the eye and had lied to him, that is when that father literally lost all sanity. He wasn't thinking like that Christian man who had been in church all of his life, who had raised his son in church. He was thinking like a father who had lost the love of his life. He loved his kids and that son very deeply, very deeply. That's why I wanted to go over the Facebook with you, Facebook account with you, to show you how much he loved his kids. But it shows that he was running away. How is this officer really fearing for his life when Ryan is trying to get away? Ryan had no intent at all to shoot at these officers. He wanted to just get away from the cops. Here, you can see here in this corner, this is the car of subject matter that was stolen. So the car is right here. This is the whole reason why this investigation occurred. Why didn't the officers just take this car? Because that's what they ultimately wanted in the whole situation. They just wanted this car. They could have took fingerprints. They could have found out who was in this car, and they could have did a bolo for the person later. They didn't need to chase after this boy. They could have just let him go. So I feel like there's going to be more tragedies like this. If the cops keep doing this, there's going to be more of these tragedies. Now, County Prosecutor Connie Pillage released a statement that said if the facts show Rodney's actions were intentional, which they were, she would throw the full force of the law at the perpetrator. What that tells me when she says full force of the law, it appears as though she's going to possibly analyze whether this case rises to the level of a death penalty. That's probably what she's going to aim for. Because, as you know, prosecutors work hand in hand with law enforcement. And the law enforcement, understandably enough, are enraged. And for political reasons, her boss, the elected district attorney, is going to pressure the death penalty for this case because it is now a national case and the law enforcement are going to be pushing for that. So it appears as though this is going to likely rise to a death penalty case. Litigi, and I can't say this person's name, encouraged the community to remain calm amid the two shocking back-to-back events in the city. I do have a plea to everybody. Let the processes play out. Let the investigations play out. Litigi said, keep calm, take care of one another. I can assure you as the chief of police for Cincinnati, I will assure you of transparency and a thorough and accurate investigation. Now this right here, these officers are liars and they're corrupt. They lied to this father. They lied and said that Ryan was trying to shoot the cops, and that is not what happened. We all saw that video, and I played it for you multiple times so you had a chance. Even though it is a blurry still shot video, very blurry video, anybody with eyes can see that Ryan did not try to shoot those officers. So they clearly were lying, and they just shot that kid because he was Black, and they feared for his life because he was Black. If it was a white kid or white person or Hispanic person or whoever was running, I guarantee you those officers would have just let him run and probably just did a bolo later on. They wouldn't have went forward and shooting him. There's been video footage of even white individuals who have firearms, and officers were able to effectively de-escalate the situation without killing that man. So they know how to do that. But when it comes to a black man, it's very easy for them to shoot first and think later. Rodney's son, Ryan, was shot and killed by a police officer on Thursday morning during the investigation of a stolen vehicle. The deputies arrived in an apartment complex and located the alleged stolen vehicle, and 4 individuals jumped out of it. Now, they were looking for a vehicle, like I said. So why didn't the officers take the vehicle? Why were they so, just take the vehicle? That's what you came for. And later on, as you'll find, they later found the other individuals who ran away. So they let those other people get away, and later on they caught them. So why didn't they let Ryan get away and then catch him later like they did the other suspects? Those other suspects are alive, and they let them flee first and eventually found them. Why didn't they do this for Ryan? The 4 people scattered as deputies attempted to chase after them. Blurry body camera footage then showed Ryan appeared to trip and fall. Thigi, I don't know this lady's name. Thigi told reporters that at least one of the individuals had a gun. And the deputy who fired at Ryan feared for his life. That is straight BS, in my opinion. There's no way you feel for your life if the suspect is running away and not even aiming the gun at you. What kind of training do you have? In their training manual, they're taught to de-escalate first before they shoot. The video footage shows not once that they try to de-escalate. They just immediately shot this kid. Now, here is a photo of the vehicle that Rodney was driving, the father. The father drove this car that he crashed into when he used this vehicle to crash into that officer, the retired officer who was patrolling the graduation. And this is the aftermath. So you can see Rodney was going at a very high rate of speed. So that is some indications that he intended to run over that officer. It was very, very intentional. And he went at a high rate of speed aiming for that deputy and ran him over. Look at the aftermath of that. That shows that there was a high rate of speed to show that kind of, to demonstrate this kind of damage. The tire is literally folded under the car. This car is completely totaled. Just that, and that's how it demonstrates the mugshot. And the mugshot, the abrasions on his head here, because that is from the car crash, as you can see. Ew, I think I just messed that up here. But this story here is just, it's kind of complicated because in a way, your conscience and your empathy is conflicted, because on one end, you know, the officer lost his life and he was not a part of this and he should not have been unalived in this manner. But on the other end, you have a father who's grieving, who felt like his kid was unjustifiably murdered. So it's like, this case really does pull on individuals' ethical mindset. This is another still shot footage of body camera where Ryan was running away from the cops. The investigation into the events that led to the officer to fire his weapon is ongoing. The police chief said the officer saw a weapon which led him to grab his gun. Okay, but still, I don't see that this kid at all was trying to shoot. But let's play this and see what this is.
Literally everything is getting more expensive.
Sorry,
housing, groceries, insurance.
As the community mourns this deputy's loss, the man accused of hitting him is still in the hospital. He's facing charges and is in critical condition. WCPO 9 News reporter Alex Null breaks down what led up to all of this and where the investigation stands tonight.
Around 1 o'clock Friday afternoon, Cincinnati police say a Hamilton County Sheriff's deputy was directing traffic at this intersection of Martin Luther King Drive in Corryville. Police say that's when the deputy was hit and killed by a driver.
Police say the deputy was helping control the flow of traffic prior to UC's commencement ceremony.
The officer was just out doing his job, directing traffic up near the University of Cincinnati.
The deputy was transported to University Hospital, where he later died. That news was announced during a joint press conference with Cincinnati Police Chief Teresa Thigi and Hamilton County Sheriff Charmaine McGuffey.
Our deputy had just retired just a few months ago and continued on in service as a special deputy with all of his experience. We were incredibly glad to have him.
There, Thigi made the jarring announcement that the driver, Rodney Hinton Jr., is the father of 18-year-old Ryan Hinton, who was shot and killed by Cincinnati police Thursday.
So that is currently under investigation by both our homicide unit as well as the traffic unit.
Police say Hinton Jr. has been charged with aggravated murder. He remains in critical condition at the hospital. The identity of the deputy killed was not released, but the sheriff says he was loved by everyone who knew him.
I knew the man, and I knew what a tremendous, tremendous person he is, and what a tremendous loss we have all suffered.
Thigi concluded the emotional press conference, assuring transparency with the investigation and leaving a message for the community.
Let the processes play out. Let the investigations play out. Keep calm. Take care of one another.
Alex Knoll, WCPO 9 News.
We are starting to get statements in.
You can see there's a tragedy on both sides. But looking at that vehicle, guys, and the high rate of speed that Rodney was going, in my mind, I feel like when Rodney, lost his son, he also was prepared to end his own life. And he wanted to take that officer out with him. When he lost his son, Rodney felt as though his life was over and he was prepared to die for his son. You can also see that he himself ended up in critical condition. But aftermath, he is actually out of the hospital now, which will show you some still shots of that video footage of him at the hearing. But let's keep looking at this video.
And from multiple elected officials, Hamilton County's prosecutor says in part the investigation is ongoing. But if the facts show this act was intentional, as the charge suggests, I will throw the full force of the law at the perpetrator. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine issued a statement a short time ago saying in part, quote, I have been briefed on the ongoing investigation and am sickened by what appears to be an intentional act of violence. We offer our sincere condolences to the deputy's family, friends, and colleagues. And we're hearing from State Attorney General Dave Yost saying in part, this loss, so close to the annual remembrances, is a cruel reminder of the many officers who have made the ultimate sacrifice on our behalf. The officers, that is, who protect our communities day in and day out, are heroes. And remember, this is all linked to yesterday's deadly.
Okay, looks like she's not going to really give us any more else information, so let's move on. But yeah, pretty sad. And it's sad just that the officer was trying to retire. That's even more tragic because he shouldn't even been there. He should have been chilling at home, Police played the footage at a press conference and said the interaction turned deadly in a matter of seconds. The body camera is kind of jolting as the officer is running. What that leaves us with is a very blurred image, unfortunately, the Thigi said. The police chief added that based on interviews with the officers, the deputy who fired his gun said they saw Ryan in a bladed position, meaning he allegedly had a weapon in his hand that faced the officer. That's a lie, though. These officers are literally lying when there's video cameras showing the polar opposite. Ryan wasn't even facing the officers in the video. He was running away. So it's just like, how could they lie when there's video footage that shows the contrary? The officer, felt threatened for his life. Bullshit. Sorry, guys. That just makes me mad because he's literally lying. And that's why he discharged his firearm, the Thigi added. The officers can be heard yelling, gun, before firing. Police believe the officer fired around 4 shots, 2 of which hit Ryan. And then why did they need to shoot him 4 times? That's excessive. Ryan sustained injuries to his chest and side, with 1 bullet exiting his back. Look at that, exiting his back. And another through his arm into his side. So that's showing me he was running away. Even looking at the bullets itself and where the bullets had went into him and exited, He wasn't even facing the officers, as they said. The video shows that they lied, and the video demonstrates that those deputies should be charged with murder. They really should, unjustifiable murder, because they did not have a justifiable reason. And I hope they still investigate those officers and that those officers don't get away with what they did, because there is no justification for this at all. There's no indication that Ryan actually fired a gun, and police acknowledge that the body camera footage doesn't clearly depict the chains of event that led to the teen's death. Well, the video footage that we did see, although grainy, to me, does not justify them killing him. It just doesn't. This is the police, Cincinnati police chief. She stood up for the officer who shot and killed Ryan, arguing that the deputy feared for his life. I don't believe her. I think she's full of crap. Now, this was the gun that was found in the grass, allegedly, guys. Again, I don't know about these officers. They sound corrupt to me. I don't even know if he really had this gun, because if they're going to lie about that, how do I know they didn't plant this gun? How do we really know? Because if they're going to lie about one thing, then they're more likely to lie about other things. They have no credibility. Okay? Officers found a handgun at the scene that they believe Ryan had on him. Now they're saying that they believed, so they don't have certainty that it was on him then. They're speculating when he was unalived, okay? Because it says here that they believe Ryan had on him when he was unalived, basically. A second magazine was found in his jacket pocket, and another gun was located in the alleged stolen vehicle. So here, again, I don't even know if I believe this story. I really don't, okay? Officers did find a handgun near the scene and found a second magazine in his jacket pocket. Police also found a second gun in the vehicle that they believe was stolen. And I wish they would have recorded this on body camera to really show that they found this there. Because again, some officers, not all, are known to plant evidence. And I'm not saying these officers did that, but I just question their credibility at this point. A second individual who fled from cops remains at large, while the other two were arrested. So, okay, they let another one get away. So why did they just do that and just do a search, guys? This just makes no sense to me. Jarrell Austin, 18, and DeAnthony Bullocks, 19, were charged with obstruction and receiving stolen property. Austin also faces an unrelated charge of felony assault with a weapon. Austin is held under a $25,000 bond. Bullock faces a $20,000 bond. Their next court date is scheduled for May 12th. And this is the vehicle that was stolen here, the subject vehicle that all four individuals ran out of. Officers responded to an apartment complex, located a vehicle that was reported missing, and they confronted the individuals inside, which led to a disastrous chain of events resulting in 2 deaths. So here, this is the car. I don't know why they have the car right here. They could have just took that car and then, it doesn't make sense. These are the other 2 suspects here that were in that car with Ryan. Okay. So the 2 individuals were arrested at the scene. Ryan Hinton was shot by officers, and the 4th individual escaped. So these 2 kids were arrested. And again, it's sad because Ryan was just hanging out with the wrong kids. His dad tried to raise him the right way, but he allowed peer pressure to dictate his decisions, and he ended up hanging out with the wrong kids who got him in, really, cost him, not just got him in trouble, but cost him his life. Meanwhile, Rodney Hinton attended a bond hearing on Saturday morning with over 30 deputies in attendance, okay? 30 deputies were there for this one man. Like I said, why do we have so many officers for one man who was handcuffed? It's because they were standing in solidarity for their fallen fellow deputy officer. That's why they were there. Not necessarily really to even survey Rodney, but more so they were standing, there in justice for their fellow coworker. That's why they were there. Now, Rodney sat with his assigned public defender, who argued that he had no felonies and was in an emotionally charged situation when the incident occurred. Yeah, this was a heat of passion situation. I feel like Rodney has a strong argument that, he, in a heat of passion, committed this murder immediately thereafter seeing his son murdered on video footage, body camera. Now, there's going to be argument that he had an opportunity to cool off before this happened, but I think he does have an argument for heat of passion. But the fact that he killed an officer, that's going to be very hard burden for him to overcome, unfortunately. Rodney was held without bond, so he doesn't have any bond, at the Claremont County Jail until his next hearing, May 6th. So what we see here is that in this case, to the contrary, because he killed an officer, and Rodney has no felonies in his record. So it's not like he's some career criminal out here committing crimes. But even with no felony convictions, this man is with a no bond hearing, no bond, because of him killing an officer. Now let's take a look at that bond hearing. It's not even a bond hearing, but of the arraignment. So I can show you, Rodney was so enraged, and there's these 30 officers standing there, in solidarity for their fallen coworker. And Rodney literally walked past them, taunting them. He's still enraged by the loss of his son. And, I honestly empathize with him, to be honest. What he did was wrong, but, who am I to judge a man who lost his son? So let's take a look at this video and look at how Rodney literally is taunting these officers. This is how much he's enraged by the loss of his son. And the fact that these cop officers lied in his face, trying to portray his son as someone who was trying to shoot a cop, when the video footage, even though blurry, is not showing that.
So the court will now, these unusual and very, will now set no bond until Tuesday, when we'll review the statute for continuing no bond under these unusual and very tragic. He was transferred, as I understand it, to Claremont County yesterday. Tuesday, when we'll review the statute for continuing no bond under these unusual and very tragic and terrible circumstances. Where will the defendant be housed, and will he be safe? And I ask that because he was transferred, as I understand it, to Claremont County yesterday.
That's correct.
On my order.
That's correct.
And will he be returned to Claremont County until Tuesday?
It's all understanding. He'll be returned to Claremont.
And you have a safe environment for him there in Claremont County?
Yes, sir.
You'll return him on Tuesday, May the 6th at 8:30 a.m. for a hearing at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Your Honor, for the record, we'd ask the court to put a bond on him now, but we understand that so not a bond hearing has been requested.
All right, no bond.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can hold him at no bond for 72 hours,
Yes,
is that
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you all.
Look at how he's so angry at those cops and the loss of his son. He utters something, we don't even know what he said to them. But you could just look at his body language and how angry he is. Let's do that one more time and just focus on his body language when he's talking to them. He's enraged.
Thank you.
No, thank you all. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
This is just sad all around, guys. So sad. Like, that father looked so heartbroken. He lost his soul when he lost his son, guys. And oh gosh, I'm speechless. When I watch that and I just look at the anger in his face, I just honestly empathize with him. What he did was completely wrong, and it wasn't, to me, the right thing to do. But at the same time, all I can do is really empathize with him. And people are saying that he had been dropped that gun. There's an eyewitness out there that's saying that he didn't have the gun when the officers even unalived him. So the cops are lying. So if you heard that, that was a witness. The witness that was there at the scene when Ryan was shot stated very clearly that Ryan had already dropped the firearm. These cops sat there and lied. They lied. They just murdered this kid. And it explains even more why Rodney was enraged. Ryan stashed that gun way before he started running, based on what this witness is saying, who said they saw the whole entire situation. Let's play this one more time. The statement from the witness.
I looked right at the situation. We watched it. I looked right at it. They lying, bro. Listen, the whole situation, when they said he did drop the gun, you can hear the gun drop. He ran towards a trash can, and that's when they killed him, bro. He should have never been shot. Then lying, talking about he pointed a gun slightly, whatever. They lying on that, bro. They lying, man.
All right, peace.
during this incident and during the ensuing search for the remaining suspects. As with every officer-involved shooting, there will be an investigation into this incident, with the Citizens Complaint Authority and CPD running parallel investigations. As always, we are committed to a thorough process in accordance with the collaborative, and I am confident that the CCA, our police department, and our city administration will direct these investigations with transparency and clarity. Thankfully, all the responding officers were unharmed. Thank you, and I will now invite Teresa Thigi to speak.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today.
And guys, I apologize. I was talking that whole time and I was muted. Well, what I was trying to say is I rewinded it to that part where the father was nodding his head in anger at the officers. He looked like he was enraged. That's why I wanted to play that one more time in the beginning when I was muted. I apologize for that. But here we're going to take a quick look at the, and this is credit to Family TV that I got this from, but this is the hearing that the chief police did after Ryan was brutally, unjustifiably murdered by police. And she's trying to justify it, prove up and down that Ryan had a gun, but Ryan had already stashed that gun based upon what witnesses have stated.
Before I start with the presentation itself, I want to say, when an incident like this one that happened yesterday occurs, the impact is felt long after the moment itself. The emotional toll doesn't end quickly. It lingers with the families, the officers, and the community for an extended period of time. Officers across the country confront dangerous situations every day, sometimes more than once a day. They are often compelled to make split-second decisions to protect others and themselves when faced with immediate threats.
And we understand
Yesterday
that,
was one of those occurrences.
we understand that, ma'am, but in this case, you aren't even being honest with yourself. Your officer had no reason at all to shoot that young man. None. Period. Then this video footage doesn't prove your story, ma'am. I'm sorry. She should be ashamed of herself.
So to give you an idea, this is 2500 Warsaw. I'm going to step out in front for a minute. Warsaw Avenue is down here. This is the long driveway. It goes up a hill. Where the incident occurred is at the dead end of the parking lot back here. You'll see vehicles there now. You'll see a photo of the stolen car that we're going to talk about was backed into a parking spot back there. As you can see, this is a stolen Kia. It was stolen out of Northern Kentucky yesterday. You can see we have two uniformed cars there. Prior to those uniformed cars arriving, we had two undercover cars that pulled into that dead end, saw the vehicle. They backed out. They saw that there were individuals inside the vehicle, so they backed out and let the uniformed cars make the approach, which is the tactically sound decision to do. The cars are positioned the way the officers are trained. We are trained to use our vehicles as cover from any threat. That's what those officers did with the cars at that time. This is body-worn camera from officer number 2.
This police chief appears as though she's literally trying to present an evidentiary trial of what happened. And it feels like she's doing this because she's trying to cover up what really happened. She's trying to continue to prove and state, oh, this is what the officers are trained to do. They're trained to do this. She's doing all this because I believe there's an underlying consciousness of guilt. They know that this shooting was not justified. There was no reason at all to shoot that kid. None. And so she's sitting here trying to continue to say, oh, he was following training. They're trained to do this. They're trained to pull up here. They're trained to do that. Yes, they did right up until they shot Ryan, in my opinion.
Go ahead, Bobby.
He's got a gun. He's got a gun on your right. On your right. He's got a gun.
So just to give you an idea, we have the two uniformed cars. We have two officers. There's 4 individuals in the stolen vehicle. All 4 individuals get out and start running, some in different directions. So officers decide which individual they're going to pursue.
Now, what are officers trained to do when a suspect runs from a situation? That's the question I have. What are they trained to do? Because it seems like officers are not really trained to make rational decisions. They seem very impulsive, and they don't usually use de-escalation tactics when it comes to Black and brown communities.
One officer decides to pursue the individual who we now know had a firearm in his hand. The other officer.
This woman just lied. She claims that he had a firearm in his hand, but the witness who said he saw the incident is saying that Ryan had threw the gun way before he started running. So this chief is here in the conference lying. She tried, you see how she's very detailed saying he had it in his hand? Because she's trying to justify this murder when it's not justifiable. She's covering up what really happened here.
Officer pursued another occupant that fled from the vehicle. And that'll be significant here in a moment when you see. So this is a still image. Again, I'm going to step out front. The car is parked over this way. Okay. They are chasing the individual. So officer number 1 is chasing this guy right here. Okay. This is the guy we ultimately end up shooting.
And here in this still shot, you can see right here, Ryan fell. You see him on the ground there? And I'm going to circle my mouse right here. Ryan fell to the ground first. And then he got up and he ran in between these garbages and continued to run. I believe when he had failed, that's when he dropped the firearm at that point. He stashed the firearm because it shows scuff marks on the firearm, which means it had to hit a hard surface to have retrieved those scuff marks on the gun, which in my opinion, he dropped it on the pavement and continued to run. And one of the officers went back to the scene and was yelling he has a gun because he saw the gun on the ground, not in the boy's hand, because the boy was running away from the officers, not trying to shoot the officers.
The other officer who actually fires the shot on this individual is chasing a different individual further out this way, in this direction. Okay. As this officer is chasing him, he sees a firearm in his hand and he yells, "Gun, gun, he's got a gun." This individual slips, trips, whatever, falls on the concrete right here. Other officers that were also there.
That individual said he has a gun. He dropped the gun by then. He dropped the gun.
Say in their interview, they heard the firearm hit the concrete. They heard the metal.
Exactly.
The firearm hit the concrete.
This is where she confirms they heard the firearm hit the concrete. She's confirming right there, guys, in her statement that he dropped the gun on that concrete. The gun was no longer in Ryan's possession when he got up because he stashed the gun on that concrete and continued to run. This chief just told on herself, and she literally just exposed the whole lie that claimed that she said he had the gun in his hand. How is it, Chief, that Ryan has the gun in his hand if you just confirm right now that they heard the gun hit the pavement? The gun hit the pavement because it fell on the pavement before he got up and ran. He did not have a firearm in his possession after the gun had fallen. This chief is lying, and she just got caught in her own lie by admitting her own admission. Her own admission is that they heard the gun hit the ground. That confirms that the gun fell on the concrete. Ryan got up after the gun fell because he stashed it there, and he continued to run without any firearm in his possession. So at that point, when the cops shot him, they overreacted and unjustifiably shot an unarmed boy who no longer had any firearms in his possession. All he had in his pocket, allegedly, which I don't even believe the cops in this situation because they're liars, is a magazine. And a magazine is useless without a firearm. And again, I don't even know if I believe that. But let's play that really quick. I want you to hear her own admission that the gun hit the concrete, because that's the reason why there's scuff marks there. That's evidence that he did not have the gun anymore because it already had fallen from his person.
The firearm in his hand and he yells, "Gun, gun, he's got a gun." This individual slips, trips, whatever, falls on the concrete right here. Other officers that were also there say in their interview, they heard the firearm hit the concrete. They heard the metal from the firearm hit the concrete.
Right there. They heard the metal hit the concrete. Why isn't that key fact really questioned and ridiculed? The officers are admitting that the gun fell out of Ryan's pocket onto the concrete. If the gun's on the ground, why did you shoot Ryan, who is now unarmed, who's not even trying to harm you? He's just trying to get away. The sheriff and those officers admitted that this boy was unarmed when he was killed. And the sheriff admitted it in a press conference. And I don't understand why the news is not on this, why people are not on this, that this sheriff just admitted that this boy was unarmed when he was shot, that the gun was already on the ground? Why is that not a key fact that people are questioning? Because it's a very important fact that this chief is saying the officers admitted to. Why aren't these officers being charged with murder? That's what I want to know.
This individual gets up, still has the firearm in his hand.
Now she's lying right there. This woman is trying to lie. And the reason why she's lying so confidently is because she knows that video footage is blurry. And she knows that people cannot see the full clear image of this boy, which gives them even more ammunition and power to continue to push this false narrative that Ryan had a gun when he did not. The gun fell. And witnesses are saying that gun was not in his possession. As I just played that video statement of the witness who said the gun had already been fallen.
And continues to run through the dumpsters. Go ahead, Bob. So these are some still photos. This is the officer who originally saw him with the firearm in his hand, calling it out. He runs through the dumpsters. This officer knows that there's another officer here that is going to ultimately encounter him when he comes through the dumpsters. So he makes him aware of that. He shouts out to him, on your right, on your right. He's on your right. And that's where this individual comes out from between the dumpsters. This is the other officer, the one who fires the shot. This is his body camera as he approaches the scene.
Get fucked out.
Notice how they quickly cut it off after that, because those cops were cussing at that boy who, as he's dying, saying, get the F down, cursing at him. So she didn't want that to be shown on national television, so she cut it off to try to make her cops look innocent. This sheriff and the police department should be completely ashamed of themselves. And that is why we have a father here mourning the loss of his kid who took justice in the matter in his own hands. Now, was it right for him to do what he did? Absolutely not. An innocent officer should not have lost his life over this. And I'm not justifying what Rodney did. An innocent officer who did not have anything to do whatsoever with the murder of his son lost his life because of what someone else had done. And here, let me show you a photo of that officer. May he rest in peace, because it's very sad and tragic that this officer lost his life. Here's a photo of the deceased officer here. So in no way, may he rest in peace. And I just pray for his soul and I pray for his family. There's no way that this officer deserved to have lost his life. He was a retired officer, a good officer who was just patrolling a graduation and had his life very horrifically taken from him, ran over in high rate of speed. So this officer does deserve justice. But this tragedy is a story that really demonstrates the historical oppressions of Black and brown individuals as it relates to law enforcement. And it appears as though some people are now wanting to take justice in their own hands. There's people on one end that support this father who lost his son here. Look, this is a picture of him with his son on better days. And there's some people who are enraged. And a lot of those people who are enraged are individuals in the white community, whereas we have individuals in the Black community who are standing up for him. There's actually a GoFundMe that they are, raising for his litigation. And people are trying to raise money because they're calling him Father of the Year and all this stuff. But I believe this story really does have a lot of conflict in it, because on one end, a officer who was innocent, who had nothing to do with the loss of of Rodney's son horrifically died in a horrible way. I wouldn't even put that, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, to be ran over at high rate of speed. There's no way. There's no way. There is no way. But at the same time, in a society where Black lives are easily just shot down and taken down, and imagine a father loses the love of his life, I would say, because he loves that kid so much, so much. You know, what Ryan did was wrong. Ryan should not have participated in an auto theft and should not have ran from officers. But he should not have lost his life because of that. And it's sad that a lot of individuals in the Black community, they commit these crimes like auto theft. George Floyd merely brought a fake dollar, some fake money into a store, like it's more so of a petty theft, more so. And these Black individuals are brutally murdered for these very petty crimes. I mean, yeah, auto theft is not really a petty crime, but still they're being murdered for non-violent crimes by officers just because I believe it's a stigma in our society that they associate Black people in a negative light. And as soon as they see a Black person, they automatically say they fear for their life because it's this stigma and this ignorance and hatred as it relates to individuals in the Black community. And they portray Black individuals as more so aggressive and violent. And we saw that with Carmelo's situation where we had the white protesters and they're saying how they feel like high statistics of white people are hunted down by Black people every day. And those statistics don't even seem to be accurate because it seems like there's more so Black on Black crime than there is Black on white crime. But that demonstration from the Carmelo story really demonstrates this division in our country and the negative stigma that is portrayed upon the Black community. And it appears as though individuals in the Black community are starting to get frustrated, tired of decades of this. And now they're like, if I can't get justice through the courts, I'm going to take justice my own way. And of course, this wasn't the right situation, the right choice that father made. And a wonderful sheriff lost his life because of that. And I just pray that, you know, that sheriff, that retired sheriff, rest in peace. And let me know what you guys think about this sad story all around. It's kind of like a hard story to really take a side because both sides are wrong. The officers are wrong for killing this unarmed kid who's appeared to have dropped the gun way before running. And the father is wrong for killing an innocent officer. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, and subscribe.